Leyawiin is one of Oblivion's more interesting cities, with its dark and murky swamp locale juxtaposed with their bright and colourful houses. But did you know that Leyawiin underwent many changes throughout development? It went through so many changes in fact, that from the initial concept to the final product, you have two completely different cities. Today I'll be showing you the changes Leyawiin went through during the course of development and why I think these changes happened. So let's get started. First of all, we have this piece of concept art. Now as you can see, this doesn't look anything like Leyawiin in the final game. We have three different sections. First section, fairly similar to the west side of Leyawiin in the final game. Then you get to the middle, and you see the castle. Two towers at each end of this middle island. And of course the castle's far bigger than it is in the final game. You have like a massive courtyard, almost like Kvatch's castle. And you have these massive bridges where boats would come in, because Leyawiin was meant to have a docks. And there's two different bridges leading to the castle, as you can see, with this bit of water in the middle. Then you get to the far side and you've got the chapel. Now the chapel in the final game isn't on the east side of the city, it's at the west side, right near the gate. And you can also see this thing here with raised seating, which obviously meant to be Leyawiin's arena. Then if you look in the bottom corner, you can see a top-down view of what the city would look like, but it's not quite the same as this version in the left corner. The right-hand corner is slightly different. As you can see, the top part here has a different shape. It has a separate island at the top, and then it comes around at a corner. And you can see an actual docks here with ships and stuff parked. Well, docked, obviously. That's what we do at a docks. Now, you might be wondering, why did the developers change Leyawiin so drastically, because this looks nothing like the final game version? Well, judging from the design of it, they must have struggled. Not necessarily struggled to get the city to run at a decent frame rate or anything like that, but I think they struggled design-wise, because the structure and design of the city in this form wouldn't have allowed them to have the city as a separate world space, because it would have contradicted itself too much. I suppose, for example, what I'm trying to say is, if you had a ship and it was parked at the docks, which is clearly meant to be part of all the Leyawiin world space, all one thing. If you had a ship docked here, and then you approached it from the Tamriel world space, but there was meant to be people on the ship, then it would look stupid if you went into the Leyawiin world space, and you see what I mean. Basically, I don't think it would have worked well with the limitations, so yeah. Moving on, we have some unused dialogue, which I stumbled across 3 weeks ago? Just under 3 weeks ago. Stumbled across it accidentally while working on something for my mod, Oblivion on top, and, well, you can listen to them for yourself. These are, if you've ever noticed, when you ask a guard for directions in Leyawiin, there's only two topics. Well, the other two topics did exist, and were recorded, but removed, because they contradicted the structure of the city in the final game. So here they are.
The two inns are south of the chapel. There's a bookstore and general trader by the north wall, and a smith by the Mages Guild.
Now, if these were to play in the final game, and if Bethesda had bothered to re-record them, they should sound something like this instead.
The two inns are by the north wall and south of the chapel. There's a smith and general trader by the north wall, and a bookstore by the Mages Guild.
It wasn't just the city that was cut down though. As you can see here, a lot of dialogue for certain NPCs was cut down. The Argonian Darji, who tells jokes, is meant to have considerably more jokes to tell. As you can see, I've highlighted with this rather crude drawing here what's used and what isn't, and I've blacked out the irrelevant dialogue that is used, or is just placeholder test dialogue. So the top 4 responses are used for Darji, and then all the rest aren't. And then we have dialogue for Tunzius. Now, he doesn't have any unique, like, responses to... Well, he does have, like, unique dialogue, but he doesn't have a unique thing, if you get what I mean. Like, Darji tells jokes and Tunsius wants to tell stories, which is hinted at in rumours, which do appear in the final game.
The dividing line is a good place to buy a sharp blade. Of course, you're likely to hear some of Tunzia's stories if you hang around.
All day long, stories about severed heads and lopped off limbs. I could do without it.
But there was also more unused rumours and conversational responses about an NPC named Del Mingo. Now, seeing as though Tunzius and Del Mingo's rumours are very similar, I think Del Mingo was the early name for Tunzius, unless they cancelled the character and then made a new one who's basically the same person, which makes no sense. But as you can see, Tunzius meant to tell you stories, and then you'd either tell him to go on, or you have enough, or be sarcastic and say what a charming little story and things like that, which is something else they simplified and cut down. Regarding NPCs, the only NPCs that I know were definitely removed from Leyawiin is one, actually. Since Del Mingo is just the only name for Tunzius, it's just Vanashti. Or Vishanti. Well, Vishanti was just a spelling error. Only referred to once as Vishanti, every other time it's Vanashti, internally. In script notes, references, internal dialogue topic names, it's always Vanashti. And that is, she was a schemer addicted Blade Master of the Leyawiin Arena. So yeah, we ended up having a city that was a completely different shape, with far less interesting NPCs. Some NPCs who have no unique dialogue at all, because they were involved in the arena or whatever, and they just got all the dialogue deleted. Other NPCs' dialogue was severely reduced, some NPCs were deleted. Of course the arena went, the two little towers at each end went, the docks was removed, the bookstore and the smiths for some reason swapped places, the inns were moved from being south of the chapel to being by the west gate and opposite the chapel, and basically everything they ended up being changed one way or another at some point. So yeah, I do have an interesting theory though. I think because they spent so much time, and before you say anything in the comments or anything, I know for a fact what you see in the concept art was in game at one point, had to have been. Because if you go in the construction set, the internal cell names for each portion of Leyawiin are laid out in a certain way, right? Like, you know, Leyawiin 1, 2, 3. But loads of them are in the wrong places, like it says the chapel where the castle is, like the concept art shows, and things like that. And it says where the docks are, in the middle, and all those sorts of things. And there's even some Leyawiin cells that aren't even part of Leyawiin, there's wilderness in the final game. So I think because they spent so much time literally creating a new city, destroying the old Leyawiin and making a brand new city, I think that's why they cancelled Such. Because they ended up making two cities. The time they should have spent making Such, they spent completely rebuilding Leyawiin. That is one possible reason why I think Such went. You can disagree, probably all will. But that's the only logical explanation I've come up with. I mean, what else is there? They ran out of time? I don't think so. So yeah, that's all I have to say about Leyawiin and its changes and cuts and whatever. Leave your thoughts below, and I'll see you in the next video. Ta-ra.
Rats, hate them, everyone. Gonna hunt them down and chop them all to tiny bits.
You make me sick, you worthless scumbag!